No matter what age your child is, you want the best for their future. What do they want to do after graduation? What career path do they want to take? These questions can be overwhelming. That's why you should ask them this question. What's your E? Seminole County Public Schools ePathway program is designed for your student to choose their own path in life from as many options as we can offer. Whether they're looking to enlist, enroll, or be employed, we're excited to help you and your child make it happen. Want them to enroll in a college or university? We'll help you find the best school for them to continue their education. Learn about grants and programs to help your child obtain their degree at a pace and a cost that works for you both. Are they looking to go straight into employment? Discover a variety of trades and skills that will propel their future. They can learn aviation maintenance, automotive repair, culinary arts, and more to hone their talents in growing industries. Is your child interested in enlistment? We'll help them find the right path of service, whether it's military, law enforcement, fire response, or EMS. They can serve the community while learning skills that will last a lifetime. What's your E? Explore options with ePathways by visiting us online at the link below.
Mr. Cortez, he's a bright young man. When I first met him, he was kind of timid, but I've grown to learn more about him, the struggles that he's been through, the transformation that he's been through in the last 5 months is incredible. I'm actually really proud of him and what he's gone through and how he's changing through my program.
I joined JROTC by accident. My guidance counselor suggested it. I didn't want to do it at all, but had to do it. I planned on just joining a semester, and I ended up loving the course, the instructors, every one of my friends that I've made here in JROTC, and my whole high school life is just surrounded basically on JROTC.
Cadet Cortez, like I said earlier, he's a lot like some of the students who come in here. He does have a lot of natural leadership ability. I think ROTC gave him an opportunity to use that in a course, in a class with students of his peers. And because of that, he's had a very good rapport with other students, extremely beneficial. It's a great leadership opportunity for him. It's also a great leadership opportunity for people around him to see how he acts, how he takes care of himself and other people. And the leadership that he does, he gets into a common ground with these students and explains how things should be done. They look at him, they don't look at him as he's any different, they just look like he's doing it better. So he's leading by example, which is a perfect example of what we want for students here in ROTC.
Well, before JROTC, I was kind of bad kid, rebellious, didn't listen to my parents, I didn't want to really be in school. Joining to ROTC, the instructors taught me discipline, they taught me how to be a better version of myself, and throughout the years I did become a better version of myself, became more respectful towards elders or peers around me. I became more aware of other people's feelings, as well as how to deal with certain emotions of mine and how to lead overall.
And he started to excel, and he started hanging around with the right group of people who helped him excel. And in the end, he took his natural leadership ability, accentuated it, and became a leader inside the Air Force Junior ROTC program.
So I also wanted to join the Marine Corps because my dad is ill and he has many kids, and I know that it will be a struggle for him to pay for all that college tuition for us, and I just want to help him out. So I know that the military helps with schooling, and I just know that I want to make him proud. I want to make him proud that he has an excellent son and that I will succeed. So I think that joining the military and being able to succeed throughout not only military but university as well will be very excellent for myself and for my family.
No matter what age your child is, you want the best for their future. What do they want to do after graduation? What career path do they want to take? These questions can be overwhelming. That's why you should ask them this question. What's your E? Seminole County Public Schools ePathway program is designed for your student to choose their own path in life from as many options as we can offer. Whether they're looking to enlist, enroll, or be employed, we're excited to help you and your child make it happen. Want them to enroll in a college or university? We'll help you find the best school for them to continue their education. Learn about grants and programs to help your child obtain their degree at a pace and a cost that works for you both. Are they looking to go straight into employment? Discover a variety of trades and skills that will propel their future. They can learn aviation maintenance, automotive repair, culinary arts, and more to hone their talents in growing industries. Is your child interested in enlistment? We'll help them find the right path of service, whether it's military, law enforcement, fire response, or EMS. They can serve the community while learning skills that will last a lifetime. What's your E? Explore options with ePathways by visiting us online at the link below.
Mr. Cortez, he's a bright young man. When I first met him, he was kind of timid, but I've grown to learn more about him, the struggles that he's been through, the transformation that he's been through in the last 5 months is incredible. I'm actually really proud of him and what he's gone through and how he's changing through my program.
I joined JROTC by accident. My guidance counselor suggested it. I didn't want to do it at all, but had to do it. I plan on just joining a semester, and I ended up loving the course, the instructors, every one of my friends that I've made here in JROTC, and my whole high school life is just surrounded basically on JROTC.
Cadet Cortez, like I said earlier, he's a lot like some of the students who come in here. He does have a lot of natural leadership ability. I think ROTC gave him an opportunity to use that in a course, in a class with students of his peers. And because of that, he's had a very good rapport with other students, extremely beneficial. It's a great leadership opportunity for him. It's also a great leadership opportunity for people around him to see how he acts, how he takes care of himself and other people. And the leadership that he does, he gets into a common ground with these students and explains how things should be done. They look at him, they don't look at him as he's any different, they just look like he's doing it better. So he's leading by example, which is a perfect example of what we want for students here in ROTC.
Well, before JROTC, I was kind of bad kid, rebellious, didn't listen to my parents. I didn't want to really be in school. Joining to ROTC, the instructors taught me discipline. They taught me how to be a better version of myself. And throughout the years, I did become a better version of myself. Became more respectful towards elders or peers around me. I became more aware of other people's feelings, as well as how to deal with certain emotions of mine and how to lead overall.
And he started to excel, and he started hanging around with the right group of people who helped him excel. And in the end, he took his natural leadership ability, accentuated it, and became a leader inside the Air Force Junior ROTC program.
So I also wanted to join the Marine Corps because my dad is ill and he has many kids, and I know that it will be a struggle for him to pay for all that college tuition for us, and I just want to help him out. So I know that the military helps with schooling, and I just know that I want to make him proud. I want to make him proud that he has an excellent son and that I will succeed. So I think that joining the military and being able to succeed throughout not only military but university as well will be very excellent for myself and for my family.
It is right. Good, good, good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to reconvene the meeting of April 4th, 2023, and please let the record reflect that Vice Chair Sanchez, Member Pennick, Member Garrick are here in person, and Member Davis is on live stream. The Superintendent, School Board Attorney, and of course Jill are all here tonight this evening. Member Pennick, you have the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry to rush you. Thank you.
I do, and I wanted to share a parent letter that we received, that Superintendent Beeman received, because I don't think that we highlight enough some of the great stories that we get. So I'm not going to read the specific names, but here is the letter. It is great joy that I write you. Our daughter is in 3rd grade at Goldsboro Elementary Magnet School in Sanford. This is her 2nd year, and I cannot begin to express the gratitude, admiration, and appreciation my husband and I have for all the teachers and staff. My husband's employer has moved us around the U.S. a few times in the last year. Our daughter has been in 2 preschools, kindergartens, and 1st grade classes. Her first full year in 2nd grade was at Goldsboro. She struggled a bit academically and socially. We were a bit worried about 3rd grade since the students do not advance with their previous classroom or teacher. Our daughter was not looking forward to starting another year at Goldsboro. I truly wish you could see her now through our eyes. Since starting the Space Lab Club, she has blossomed unlike anything we've ever expected. Every day, including the weekend, she speaks to anyone who will listen to her about Mr. Wakelin and what she learned in the club. She knows what an electrical board and circuits are and knows the proper terminology and applications for them. My husband didn't learn about it until he was in high school, and I can change a light bulb. She has built propellers out of paper, staples, and tape. At first glance, I thought she just threw it together and it was not going to work. Boy, oh boy, did she prove my thoughts wrong. Not only has Mr. Wakelin had a positive academic effect, but also personal. Like many young girls, my daughter loved to twirl around in her school shirt. Well, Mr. Wakelin told her, as we have many times, that is not appropriate for girls to twirl around and have their skirt go up, and he would not look at her again until she stopped. To this day, she never twirls around in a skirt or dress. It just goes to show you how much admiration and respect she has for Mr. Wakelin, and as his words have had a profound impact on her. Goldsboro instills in her what we try to every day, which is kindness, compassion, and intelligence to make her a strong student and the best human that she can be. Thank you in advance for taking the time out of your busy day to read this letter with gratitude. We get these quite often, and I think I wanted to read this out loud and just thank all of the staff in all of our schools that exemplify what this letter says, and thank you again to our families for allowing us to be this light in your students' lives. And with that, if you stand and do the pledge.
Thank you, Member Pennick. Sorry, Madam Chair. No worries. This evening, the roll call order will be Vice Chair Sanchez, Member Pennick, Member Davis, Member Garrick, and then myself. Acknowledgements this evening. We have Michelle Jones from Seminole County Council of PTA. Thank you for being here this evening. Superintendent, do you have any agenda modifications?
Yes, the addendum for good cause is marked on our electronic agenda and is marked by a green flag named addendum item.
Thank you. School board members, do you have any modifications, items selected for removal or clarification? Member Vice Chair Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Member Pennick?
No, ma'am.
Member Davis? Can you hear me, Member Davis? Do you have any items for modification? Okay. Well, we'll circle back if she does. Member Davis, do you have any items to remove?
No, I don't. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member Garrick?
No modifications.
And I don't have any either. Is there a motion to approve the agenda outline?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Thank you. This evening, presentations, recognition.
We have our Veteran of the Month from our Transportation Department, who will be introduced by Mr. McKenzie. Ms. Moore? I'm sorry. Not Mr. McKenzie. Thank you.
Mr. McKenzie changed. Sure. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Beeman. It's an honor to present to you our Veteran of the Month, Corporal Regina Washington. Regina Washington enlisted in the United States Marine Corps on August 8, 1988. Starting on this path, she went to Parris Island, South Carolina for basic training. There she endured vigorous physical training and equally mentally challenging exercises. After 12 weeks, she emerged as a proud member of the United States Marine Corps. Next, Regina went to New River Air Station in Jacksonville, North Carolina for motor transport training. Over the next 12 weeks, she learned how to masterfully drive many vehicles that would help her in her new and future career. After training, Regina received orders to go to Kanahu Bay, Hawaii, where she worked with MWS 174th Marine Air Ground Wing Squadron in the motor pool. During this assignment, she went on several temporary duty assignments, including working in the Armory for the air side for 6 months. While working in the Armory, Regina went to the gun range every day and learned how to use, break down, and clean 9mm pistols and M16 rifles. You don't want to mess with her. She was also able to experience Yuma, Arizona, 29 Palms, California, and a deployment to Saudi Arabia to serve in the Gulf War. She received several medals, such as Southwest Asia Service Medal with Desert Shield and Desert Storm Campaign, National Defense Service Medal, Kuwait Liberation Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, and Marksmanship Badge, and was honorably discharged in 1992. After getting out of the Marine Corps, she moved to Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where she went to college and earned her first of 2 associate's degrees. She is currently 7 classes away from earning her bachelor's degree in business administration. In 2005, she became a bus driver for Seminole County Public Schools, where she safely and proudly transported the youth for 9 years. After suffering an injury that would not allow her to continue driving buses, she transferred to work in the garage at the Winter Springs compound as a secretary and was eventually promoted to her current position as our accountant, records, and reporting specialist and our local resident comedian. When Regina is not working keeping us in line, she enjoys traveling and spending time with her family, especially her husband Ray, her daughter Master Sergeant Ebony Washington, an active member of the United States Air Force, and her granddaughter Kyra. She also loves helping people in any manner and gives back to her community whenever she can. We are honored to have Corporal Regina Washington as a member of the Seminole County Public Schools transportation team.
Chair Kraus, our next item is the Focus on Student Achievement. It's College Readiness Update with Dr. Wysong and team.
Welcome. Thank you for being willing to present again today.
Good afternoon, almost good evening, board members, Chair Kraus, Superintendent Beeman. We're going to provide you with what I think will become an annual update. I think this is our second time doing this, on college readiness initiatives and data outcomes. And I'm joined by Kelly Thompson, our Director of Assessment, Accountability, and Research, and her coordinator, Sarah Borowski, who is the point person for really all of our interactions with the College Board. And we're going to walk you through a presentation, and I'll warn you, board members, this one is always a little bit data heavy, so there's not a lot of slides, but I know we'll spend a little bit of time on each slide, and there's a lot of context to the data. And the data is also longitudinal, so I think this is a really transparent approach to looking at the outcomes related to these initiatives. And of course, the three of us absolutely love all of this data, so we'll try to just hit key points for you. First, we're going to start with your strategic plan, and System Initiative B is High Standards and Student Achievement, and the preamble statement is included there. And again, we are ultimately, and this really is a K through 12 initiative, we are ultimately trying to get students to be successful in those advanced courses that lead to post-secondary credit and help students be ready for college. So the state sets the requirements to get a high school diploma. This is really going beyond that in terms of our commitment to students and families, that we want as many students as possible leaving designated college ready based on their performance on these assessments. So there's some longitudinal data again on the screen, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more by grade level and help you see some of the trends, particularly comparing Seminole County to state and national averages, and also state and national testing groups. You have seen this graphic before, and board members, thank you for committing the financial resources that are necessary to make this happen. This is a table showing all of the opportunities to take the PSAT, the SAT, and the ACT on our middle and high school campuses, not only during the school year, but during the school day. It's quite an assessment package, and of course, our principals, their test coordinators, and the faculty are making all of the adjustments necessary to provide these assessments. And again, we've shown the funding sources. We use a lot of different sources to put this package of assessments together. For me, this slide embodies the commitment to both excellence and equity. We want to benchmark ourselves against the state and the national averages. We really move beyond that, as you'll see momentarily. But this is also the equity piece of this, that all students have this opportunity at no cost to families, without a time conflict, meaning, oh, I can't do that Saturday morning assessment because I'm involved in some other activity, and without a transportation barrier. So by providing this lineup of assessments, we're really addressing both the excellence and the equity priorities in your strategic plan. So we are, again, appreciative of your commitment, and also appreciative of everything that the schools and the department does to make this happen for students. I'm going to turn this presentation over to Mrs. Thompson. She's going to walk you through the data and how to interpret it. And then Ms. Borowski is going to walk you through our next challenge with this project, and that is the move to the digital SAT from a paper product. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. What you see represented on this slide are the college-ready benchmarks as designated by College Board. The college-ready benchmarks work together to help students and educators assess students' progress towards college and career readiness from one year to the next year. The grade level benchmarks indicate whether students are on track for college readiness, and they're based on expected growth towards SAT benchmarks at each grade level. For example, a student in 8th grade who scores a 390 on the PSAT 8-9 are considered to be on their path for college and career readiness by the time they would participate in the SAT EBRW, which is the evidence-based reading and writing. We'll try to keep the acronyms down, but you know how we get carried away with our acronyms, so we're working on that. So students with an SAT evidence-based reading and writing section score that meets or exceeds the benchmark, those students have a 75% chance of earning at least a C in their first semester credit-bearing college courses in history, literature, social sciences, or writing classes. So these scores also are about getting students into college, but also how well our students will persevere once there and be successful once they enter. So often we think about scores as being access, but also the scores are reflective of students' readiness to be there and their ability to be successful in those courses. Students in SAT math, if they have a score that exceeds the benchmark, they have a 75% chance of earning a C in first semester credit-bearing college courses in algebra, statistics, pre-calculus, or calculus. So now we're going to have some conversations about the scale. So SAT and PSAT NMSQT scores, because remember there's three different tests we're going to talk about: the PSAT 8-9, the PSAT NMSQT, which is the test that our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders are taking in our district, and the SAT. How do all these scores connect from one year to the next? All these scores use a common score scale. So the minimum and maximum scores will vary from assessment to assessment with the difference of complexity in the knowledge. But it does allow us to look from one year to compare the scores across year to year because they are vertically scaled. So for instance, theoretically, if a student were to take the PSAT 8-9, PSAT, SAT on the same day, they would score the same on each assessment. If you scored perfectly on all three, you would get a 720 on one section versus the 800 because the maximum scores are different on each one, which I know that's kind of technical sausage making stuff, but I wanted to make sure we talk about the alignment of the scales as we start to look at the data by grade level. Okay. The following slides are set up with the same visualization. So we're going to walk through this visualization and you'll see this format duplicated on the slides moving forward. So these slides are going to highlight student progress and achievement on the PSAT from the 22-23 school year. Our students participated in these assessments earlier in the year, and so we have that 22-23 data. This chart represents the data of our 8th grade students and their performance in the PSAT 8-9 over a 3-year time comparison with comparison to their peers across the state and across the nation. The table on the bottom gives you shows the number of participants, the mean total score, the mean EBRW score, and the mean math score. The graph at the top indicates the percent of students meeting the evidence reading and writing college ready benchmark and the math college ready benchmark. The red bar is the district performance, the orange bar is the state performance, and the yellow bar is the national average. You'll see the same format on the next several slides. It's important to note for PSAT 8-9, Seminole County Public Schools extends this experience to all students in our districts. Students across the state and across the nation, often these students are specific groups of students that are participating in this test for a particular purpose. So not all students are selected to participate in some districts and in some states. So our students are a much different demographic and number of students participating versus the state and the nation. With that being said, it is also impressive to note that we are outperforming the state and the nation consistently over the last 3 years, both in the EBRW and the math, even when we give it to our entire student population. PSAT for 9th graders. As we look at this data, one of the things that's important to understand is our 9th graders do not take the PSAT 8-9. They do not take the PSAT, the PSAT 9, they take the PSAT and MSQT test. They take the same test that 10th graders take and that 11th graders take. We've made that decision as a district because these PSAT scores for our 9th graders align to concordance. Plus, they also give us the opportunity for our students who are 9th graders to take the test that will eventually qualify them for national merit. So it's an additional opportunity for them to participate in that assessment that has some high outcomes from that meeting. So this slide represents the performance of our 9th graders on the PSAT and MSQT, which was given in October. The college ready benchmarks are equivalent to grade 10 benchmarks, not 9th grade benchmarks. So these are 10th grade benchmarks. So that's why you'll see that our performance looks different on this slide than it was on the preceding one, and the ones that are to come. As I said, by doing this for our 9th graders, we have to give them the ability to meet concordance on the Algebra 1 graduation assessment. It also provides that opportunity for students to meet national merit and other College Board recognitions and scholarships. So this begins that pathway for the students that you recognized at Seminole High School a couple of weeks ago. So this is part of that pathway to that recognition. So this data represents that as a district, this year our students have outperformed our peers. We are competitive even with giving this assessment, giving them the more difficult assessment. We still remain competitive with peers across the state and across the nation in 9th grade. PSAT grade 10. This data represents the performance of our 10th grade students, and this assessment is funded by the state. This test is typically administered to all 10th grade students across the nation in October. So this is an apples to apples comparison, as all students have the opportunity to participate in this. This year, our students on average are continuing to outpace their peers across the state and the nation, with a larger number of students participating in this assessment. You'll see the national participation is quite high for this assessment.
Could I ask a question? Are the dynamics the same? Are the state numbers all 10th grade students? And okay,
yes, the state allows us to select either the PSAT or the ACT plan assessment. Is that right, Sarah? I think very few districts, if any, are doing ACT plan. Most of the Florida districts are doing PSAT.
Okay.
And the PSAT and MSQT is an opportunity that we provide, again, to all 11th graders. So this is the performance of our 11th grade students. Other districts and other states often select students for participation in this assessment that are on track for national merit. So this is the national merit qualifying test. So typically juniors across the state and across the nation are a different demographic and population of student versus us, where we test all students. So this year our 11th graders continue to outpace peers across the state, and we are competitive across the nation. And the results of this administration, as I said, are used to qualify for national merit and additional College Board recognition, including the African American Recognition Program, Hispanic Recognition, and it's again, as Dr. Wysong said, it's this board's commitment to all students that increases the accessibility of those programs to all students in Seminole County Public Schools. So that was a lot of data. So now we're going to talk about what's coming next for our students in terms of SAT and readiness for post-secondary education. And I'll pass this off to Sarah to talk about our transition to the digital SAT suite of assessments.
Bill. Our next step's going to include the formation of a superintendent's work group, which is in the process of being convened to ensure the smooth transition to the digital format of College Board assessments. The group will collaborate to develop a comprehensive plan that will allow for the changes to be implemented and to ensure that we continue to support student success on the College Board assessments. Also, as part of the transition, our district has been selected by College Board to serve on a work group to meet with other large districts across the country to work closely with the development and implementation of the new assessments. Our next meeting with other large school districts will be happening in May, where we can bring about our new ideas and ways to make some changes to implement the system. Our update.
So board members, as you can see, we have some work to do, but I know that our schools will rise to the challenge, and with Mr. Rice and Mrs. Faison leading those groups of schools, I know that we'll have a good transition on the digital front. We're very fortunate that Ms. Borowski is well regarded by College Board and that we have a seat at the table for this digital transition. Mr. Vasquez, our Chief Technology Officer, has also participated in a large group, a large district meeting, because obviously large districts have different challenges with an implementation like this, and so there's been some conversation there as well. But we will certainly get ready for this transition. And again, I think the key point to all of this is that commitment to all students. And when we put our entire grade level up against much more selective students, we're performing very, very well against state and national benchmarks, and that's a testament to the excellent teaching and learning happening in the classroom. So we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Member Sanchez, any questions?
Hi, thank you so much. One of my questions would be, after leaving Tallahassee for a spring break and being there during the legislative session, how do we see it affecting our PSAT, SAT, ACT with homeschool students and schools that don't offer it into their private school settings, and having to give that test to them, and the digital platform, and along with the partnership with College Board?
We will have a process in place that our home ed students will be able to participate in the assessments on during the assigned days as well.
And private schools too?
Yes.
And then, has anybody figured out the cost that's going to cost us yet? The fact, I mean, I'm sure you guys haven't yet. I mean, the state hasn't even decided. So apparently we're going to be absorbing the cost for the testing for students that are either homeschooled or have another choice that they choose to navigate through for education.
Yes, according to the documents put out by the state, it is the district's responsibility to ensure that they are given the opportunity to participate.
The state, on the state-funded assessment, so the PSAT 10 and the ACT 11th grade, those are state-funded assessments. Our assessments that we have the district contract for, we offer the opportunity for those students to participate, but there is there's the cost of the assessment that we pay per assessment is part of what is, that cost is passed along to that student. Okay. That is not necessarily covered under our contract.
Perfect. So the money that we allocated years ago.
There's a different
Good.
There's a different set of procedures for the state-funded assessments than there are for the district-funded assessments. But those assessments are available to those students on a space available basis, because our contract is based upon our number of students. If we have tests available and those students register through us, we have a process to do that, and there's a payment piece that goes with that as well.
So,
that is the amount of the contract.
Since we pay for the cost of the PSAT and SAT earlier time than many other districts, and we give them that opportunity, that what I'm hearing is that if we don't necessarily, since it's a cost that we have incurred, that we're doing for our students, that's something that we don't have to offer to other students. Is that correct? Since it's our students that we have decided to test to see where they're at and to see if there's an option if they want to see where they're at, you know, based on the College Board and SAT.
There is a
ACT.
statutory requirement to offer that opportunity to homeschool students. And so we have a process in working with Ms. Elwood's team to do that. So we are statutorily required to offer that to homeschool students. Private school students typically are not allowed to test on our board-funded SAT school day opportunities. Our schools will also, we didn't address this here, but our schools will, when this transition takes place, the Saturday administrations of SAT that go on at our schools, and again, that's a contract between the school and College Board that is not part of what this team does and not part of what the district does. Any student who registers through College Board, and that's a testing site, has access to be able to test on those Saturday administrations digitally. So that,
Right,
that
and
will
they
be
pay
open
for
to
that
all students.
separately. That's a totally different.
That's again, that's an agreement between the school that's deciding to be a Saturday site and the parent of any student that wants to register for that site, as it has been in the past.
Right.
There's no change to that.
Thank you so much.
As a tag along to that question, do we provide the devices for everybody?
So devices are available at the school. College Board also will provide devices to students. So when the student registers for the digital SAT, they can indicate whether or not they will need a device. That device is then, keep in mind these protocols are still under development. I was there in February, and it's changed. It may change by the time Sarah goes back in May to meet with this group. But right now, that device then is going to be sent to think about a Saturday administration. So SAT school day is a very different thing. For SAT school day, yes, we will provide the devices for all of our students that are participating in SAT school day. We will have those devices available. For a Saturday administration, a student that doesn't have a device can request a device through College Board. That device is then sent to the school, and we'll be working with Mr. Vasquez's department and our IS team to develop the protocols for having that device ready for students to test.
Thank you. And yes, Member Penny.
Mine is not a question, just an observation. I'm always a little surprised by the math, how low the math results are on this. And so I look forward to how the outcomes in future years are based on the changes that we've done with RAMP over this past year. So I'm interested in following that along closely. But thank you for a great presentation as always.
Member Davis, do you have anything?
I don't. Thank you for gathering all that data for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Member Garrick?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, next up is board items for discussion. Vice Chair Sanchez, non-committee report discussion.
So non-committee discussions like Allie's Hope, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Well, Allie's Hope is not really, well, it's part of a committee now, but.
Thank you.
So first, I spent the week during spring break in Tallahassee during the legislative session. Member Garrick and Member Davis also went at the beginning of the week. If you haven't had an opportunity to look over the legislative bills that have gone through, please take that opportunity to look at it. I'm going to try to stay positive and not show my frustration and anger because I am very disappointed. And I think a lot of families need to be concerned. I am all for choices. I'm all for people choosing the path that's best for their children. May it be private, may it be homeschooling or public school. However, I feel it's extremely important that our children have the same accountability on all levels. And when you're comparing apples to oranges, and being an educator and in the system for 35 years, there is no assessment or accountability. I will say I was extremely disappointed in watching how it played out. I lived in Tallahassee for 15 years. Poli-sci was my minor, and I was extremely frustrated with the knowledge that was not passed to the legislators and how many of them did not even know what was going on. I think it's important for everybody to see what's going on and to not be blindsided by this, not just this issue in education, but other issues that have been passed as bills. I will say I've never been so frustrated in all my years by watching how fast bills went through without amendments and to no accountability. And it's our duty as citizens and as us as elected officials to pay attention. It's our duty as parents and our students to make sure that they get the education that they deserve. And I'm hoping that many of you take that time to look over the initiatives and the different legislative bills that have passed. And it's easy to find. Just go to myfloridasenate.gov or my house. Is it Senate? I just messed it up, but all you have to do is type in bills and you can see what's going on. So other than that, I also wanted to mention that Seminole County was awarded $2 million, in case you didn't read about it in the newspaper. I had asked back, many years, I guess it was back in 2019, about for the class action lawsuit.
Oh, for the Jewel.
For Jewel. And that back then was, Jewel was the main producers of vapes. And I had asked Dr. Griffin if we could join the class action lawsuit. We had nothing to lose, only something to gain by educating our youth, as well as showing that we felt very strongly about vapes and what they were doing to our children and so on and so forth. So we got word about a month ago, and I forgot to mention it at the last meeting, but we were awarded $2 million of that lawsuit. And so kudos to the class action lawsuit. There were a lot of other school districts that also were a part of that. Not sure how. We haven't decided what we're doing with how we're going to allocate the money. I am hoping that we will use some of the funding to educate our youth on the dangers of vaping, and for you to share that as well. So, I mean, every little bit helps, especially when we're not getting the funding that we need from the state. So we'll trickle whichever money, and I'm even thinking, I mean, we haven't talked about it because there's so much going on, but class action lawsuit on social media is actually happening right now. And as an Allie's Hope mental health board member, I think it's important that we join that class action lawsuit because it's destroyed our youth in so many ways. It's not just youth, but adults as well. So that's another class action lawsuit that is in the process right now. I'm not sure if you're also aware the FDA finally approved Narcan for an over-the-counter product, which is I'm extremely happy about. We have not really had a chance to discuss it at open board discussion, but the fact that it's just basically like a nasal spray, and nobody, even an infant, if you spray it in a child's nose, it will not harm them. So if you look up, research it, check Narcan, and the importance of possibly having it in your home or your family, and we will see what we can do as our part in for our schools. Also wanted to share that I know we had a lot of events that we all went to. So many great events that have taken place. The State of the County, which was yesterday with our county commissioners talking about some of the funding and some of the money that they were using to utilize with our schools. We had our History Awards night, celebrating that with our National Merit I'll let Amy talk about Lake Mary. We had our Alley's Hope Golf Tournament, the Taste of Lake Mary. We had an amazing celebration, the iftar celebration for Ramadan at the mosque in Sanford, and it was amazing. Superintendent Beeman was one of our honorees, and she did an amazing job speaking. And we broke fast with them, and it was a very moving experience for everyone that was there, and it just showed how much our community works together and not apart, and or at least trying to. We can agree to disagree, but the division in our country, us showing unity and 1,000 people being there really showed the representation. Member Pennick was there with me as well, with some of our cabinet members, and the speeches about how knowledge is power, and to learn about other cultures and religious backgrounds and beliefs and things like that, and to listen to each other, how critical that is. And then, of course, we had our meeting with SGA. That was always a great meeting with them. I know some of you will share some of the information with that, so I won't go further on that. College Night at Lake Brantley, we hosted it, and there were quite a few people there. Lake Brantley was the host for Seminole County Public Schools. And then this weekend, we actually have the ROTC Gala. The JRTC Gala is this weekend. And that gala should be really nice. And then also wanted to share my frustration and don't know all the information on it, but just I was out of town, but you know, to have more empathy and compassion towards our students that were not able to attend prom at Lake Brantley. I believe an investigation should have taken place afterwards, and the students should have been allowed in. They will never have that experience. To just go to another prom is not a solution to the problem. They should have been able to go in then. My understanding after researching some of this is my school bucks. There's some glitches in that system. I've even played with it. There's multiple ways in my school bucks that you cannot sign up for more than one thing at a time, but it doesn't tell you that. And so I actually played with it myself earlier today. So I'd like for us to look into my school bucks and see some of the glitches in that system. Sorry I didn't bring that up to you earlier, Chad, because I know that you know, I don't want to blindside you with that, but I think we need to look into that. It's not, you know, anything that you had anything to do with. I just think there's some sort of glitch in the system that we need to fix. But you can't take prom back from these students. These 14 students, they could have easily gone in, and later on we could have investigated what actually happened and then go from there. Running for Heroes also, we had a great event for that, and I'll leave the rest for later.
Thank you. Member Pennick.
I just, a few things to highlight. I spent 4 days last week and weekend in Tampa with the Consortium of State School Board Associations. It's the new National School Board Association. There were 24 states representative, over 1,700 school board members. And it was a really phenomenal informational experience. And when I get down time to be able to, I will share all of the information with staff and with you guys so that you can go through some really good information, takeaways on teacher recruitment and retention, elevating student voice, discipline discussions, safety discussions, governance, just really good conversations going around and sharing best practices from states all around. I had the honor to speak at a couple things over the past couple weeks. One at the SGA year-end picnic where all the leaders from all the schools got together. And then a professor at UCF had asked me to speak. It's the second time I've done this at his class. And this year was most unique because he had about 20 students in his class and about half a dozen of them were SCPS employees. And it was just really nice to see our educators going on to continuing education at the doctorate level. And so kudos to all of them for taking their personal time away from everything else to further their education. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Member Davis?
Yes, I think Member Sanchez had gone over a lot of the things, so thank you for that. I just wanted to voice my appreciation for the joint workshop that we had last week with the Association of Student Government. I was very impressed at the activities that they got involved with, their presentations to us. I was very excited about their commitment to education and the various paths that a lot of the students took differently from one another in achieving the goals that they desired for their education here at Seminole. As far as the students, very intelligent, very smart, very motivated, and I was very impressed with their commitment to sharing their experience and their optimism and commitment to education with other students in our district. So once again, I want to send out a big thank you to them. And for now, I think that a lot of things were already covered. So that's all I have to add. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Member Garrick?
I'd like to say special thank you to the district for continuing to make professional development a priority for every person in our district who I had the opportunity, as Member Sanchez discussed, to attend the FSBA, the Florida School Board Association conference over spring break. I also took the opportunity to go up a little bit early and sit in on some legislative sessions regarding education, and my sentiments echo much of what Ms. Sanchez has already said. One of the breakout sessions in the FSBA conference was about civility and the importance of civility. And I thought this was a very simplistic topic. How could we possibly spend hours? And it was really, really informative and talked about the importance of civility not only in our society, but particularly within a school district. So I think that it's important for us to remember as board members, as well as community members and educators, that we model civility. I would like to extend an invitation to everyone, every stakeholder, to share their concerns and their suggestions with us. And we are especially honored when parents entrust their students' education to Seminole County Public Schools. However, like my grandmother used to say, you can catch more flies with honey. So I would remind everyone to please use civility when speaking to those, to your fellow educators, to students, and to us, the board. We absolutely take your concerns seriously. We want to address any issues. We want to give the very best education to each and every student in our district. And we can't do that unless we know the issues. However, it's hard to listen if someone's not being civil. I'll leave it at that. I had some great school visits. I'll rattle them off real quick. I was at Seminole High School, Sci High, 9th grade center, Crooms just before spring break. They had a phenomenal Business Advisory Council presentation. We were at the National Merit Recognition. Some highlights from my school visits. At the 9th grade center, we have a teacher who had a formidable career. He runs several businesses. He was in the military, and he had a calling to become an educator. And so he recently became certified as an ESE teacher, and has since not only been a model in his school, but he's been an inspiration to people throughout the district. So those are the kind of stories that I hear and see each and every day, that we all do, visiting our schools. I believe Member Sanchez mentioned the Foundation Golf Tournament. That was an opportunity to speak to some folks who had worked for decades behind the scenes in our schools and have parents who are educators and are giving back now that they've become adults and that their students have actually graduated. Now that they have a bit of free time, they're giving their time, their energies, their dollars to help strengthen our schools. Last board session, I asked for a call for volunteers and for people to search their hearts for any way that they would like to help our students. And out of the galley, 2 people afterwards came up to me and said, how can I help? I'd like to volunteer. So I'd like you to remember that our schools are a community. You are that community. So if there's some way that you can help us help our students, please let us know. We'll take your energies and we'll pitch you to work. And last but not least, a lot of things going on yesterday. The evening ended with the AP Art Show at Seminole State College, which was phenomenal. And one of those great community stories, Longwood art teacher Dr. Medico was recognized, and lo and behold, I saw a Longwood teacher that had worked decades and retired from SCPS, is the mother of Dr. Medico. Then I realized that the sister of Dr. Medico lives behind me in Sanford, and she has worked for decades, first at the foundation, and now she's very involved with the picnic project. So we are your neighbors, we're your friends, your teachers are invested in our community, and it really is going to take all of us to work through the challenges that are coming to our schools shortly. So thank you.
Thank you for that report. As several have mentioned, we attended the National Merit Scholar student recognitions, and we had the most we have ever had. I think it was 107 students. We had to move venues because there were so many, and phenomenal recognition for them. The Strings Festival, sadly I missed it, was this weekend. I know 300, is that right, Mr. Cinco? 360 of all ages performed together, including some staff members in the back, I heard. That's always a great event. Dividends are celebrating their 50 years, and I believe they were recognized at the County Commission. Thank you to our Dividends Program Coordinator, Ms. Ebb. And this weekend, I won't be at the ROTC banquet. I'm going to the Kids House Gala, so that's what we're doing. And that's my non-committee report. It is now time for our public comments for agenda items. Members, Vice Chair Sanchez, if you could.
Excuse me. Policy 0169.1, public participation at board meetings. The purpose of the public participation segment of the board meeting is to allow public to address matters within the board's jurisdiction and not to resolve individual grievances or disputes. Public comments related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcome and encouraged. But public comment segments are not forums to engage in personal attacks against the school system employees or board members. To maintain orderly conduct, the public comment segments of the meeting may not be used as open forums to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support or oppose candidates for public office, including presentation of political and or campaign issues, announcing candidacy or campaigning, or to engage in commercial speech attempting to sell a service or product to the board or the public. Nor are they forums to address matters involving disciplinary actions of any kind, pending claims, complaints, or litigations against the district or district personnel. Public comment segments durations are as follows. Agenda items limited to 3 minutes. One group representative Speaking on one proposition, maximum of 6 minutes. Speaker must remain on topic for agenda item. Non-agenda items are limited to 2 minutes. Speakers shall direct their comments only to the board and may not address the audience or other speakers. No speaker may yield his or her time to any other person. Generally, substitutions of speakers will not be allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. And this evening, I have 3 agenda item speakers, Jessica Tillman, Nina Sandberg, and Judy Nee. And we'll have you up at this podium. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Tillman. I am a Longwood resident. I'm pretty concerned about the discipline code. Most of the board members I am listening to are also concerned with the discipline code. The superintendent and the district staff continue to say that things are not happening, that are happening. They are lessening issues. So they're going to say that a weapon is contraband so that they don't have to report it. These things are happening, and you continue to gaslight our communities, telling us that we need to come forward and tell you exactly which schools. Well, we're telling you that it's happening, so you need to look at every school and see where it is happening and where it is not. Instead of saying, oh, we need you to tell us exactly what schools and who is saying this, so that they're then retaliated against once the district knows who is saying these things. They need access to referrals. You need to make sure they have access to referrals, not just, oh, well, we know that they have them in the teacher's break room if they need them. They need access in their classrooms. The safe harbor provision is really concerning. A kid can bring a weapon onto campus, threaten a child, and turn the weapon in before an investigation gets started, and then nothing is done to the student. So why do we need that provision now? Like, this is something that's new. This isn't something that has been in the discipline code for a long time. So why is this provision now needed? Has this provision ever been used? How many times is it reported? Is it recorded that these incidents are happening? The safe harbor provision is really, really concerning. I think that we need to have a section added to the referral so that the teacher can explain why they wrote the referral and why they gave the discipline that they did. The teachers absolutely need to have control of their classrooms, and we're not going to do that if we're having kids come out of a classroom and then being sent right back in with no discipline. I saw a survey that was done by the SEA, and it's really concerning that almost half of our teachers feel like their safety is in jeopardy at school. So 46% of teachers said that they do not feel safe at school. I know that there are students that have come up and said that they don't feel safe in school. So what are we doing to address this concern? Are we just saying that it's not happening and going about our way? Let's see. Most of the teachers feel that the discipline code needs to be overhauled. So the matrix really needs to be removed. There needs to be solid structure of what happens for each specific infraction. You can't have like everything just optional, because then that's when no discipline happens. We need to mark it on the referral that no discipline happened and why no discipline was taken. These are really big concerns. We do need another workshop to discuss this in further detail, because the discipline code is the #1 concern of any single person that I talk to across the district. It's not just here. Like we've said many, many times, this is a nationwide problem, and I'd like to see Seminole be a leader and find a solution, find the ways to handle it, and really be a leader nationwide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Order, please. I'm Nina Sandberg, and I'm probably just going to forget about my speech tonight. I was an SCPS student at the same time that Sarita Beeman was an SCPS student, and I'm also a former elementary school teacher and a former middle school teacher. And what's happening right now is not acceptable. We come to these meetings now to back the teachers up because they need to be backed up, because it's really, my own daughter needed to be punished, and I asked them to punish her, and they wouldn't give her the punishment because your discipline code is so broken that they weren't allowed. Even though I knew what the correct punishment was as a former student and teacher, they weren't allowed to give it. The teachers need to have, if you're in elementary school, first of all, you need to be allowed to use timeout. You need to be allowed to call it timeout. You need to be allowed to use silent lunch. You need to be allowed to do certain things that are normal things the elementary school teachers need to do in terms of tools for discipline. They need to be similar to the tools for discipline that were used on me when I was an SCPS student and that were used when I was a teacher as well. If you're a middle school teacher, you're supposed to have a stack of lunch detentions on your desk and after school detentions and referrals, and you as the teacher are supposed to be able to, if they need a lunch detention, it's a minor offense, you're supposed to be able to write up that detention and hand it to them. If they need after school detention, it's a minor offense, you're supposed to be able to write up that detention and hand it to them. And then the most serious offenses go to the dean, which you've renamed, but it's still the dean, on a referral form. And if there is a problem, like there was a problem with me as a parent, my child did receive a fake referral, which is the infamous granola referral that you all know about, you can have a meeting with the parents and discuss that separately, because every now and then you're going to have somebody who abuses the system no matter what. But you can't punish everybody else. And what has happened now is that everybody's getting punished because maybe 1 or 2, 3, 4 bad apples in the entire system abused the old system, and they did, and now everybody's punished and they can't do their job. They need to be able to do their job with the basic tools that they're supposed to have, and that you need to have an in-school suspension classroom in the middle schools. You got thousands of kids in these schools. I don't know why you would not think that you need to have it just because one administrator who should have been fired from the district abused in-school and out-of-school suspension. That doesn't mean you take it away for everybody else and they can't do anything. That's not fair to them. You have to be fair to these people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Order, please.
Good evening, school board, Superintendent Beeman. My name is Judy Ying. I am a teacher at Lake Howell High School and the vice president of the Seminole Education Association. Thank you all for the open discussion today on discipline. I thought it was really, really productive. But it may have focused a little bit too much on being reactive instead of proactive. I kept hearing just discipline the child. That seems simple enough. But in reality, when a teacher reprimands a student for hiding the earbuds, putting the jacket over the bikini top, or sneaking the cell phone, or a myriad of other offenses found in our student code of conduct, the mood of the room drastically changes. It's now very tense. This tension can escalate if the child being reprimanded escalates. This tension is terrible for learning. Anxiety affects everyone in the classroom, including the teacher. When this happens, there are hormones released that cause biological symptoms to divert blood flow away from non-essential systems to the flight or fight systems. And this can take time to clear the body. If that happens repeatedly or daily in a classroom, that is now a place where learning is far from optimal. We must be proactive in our approach to discipline. Everyone, principals, assistant principals, deans, teachers, paras, everyone who may be called upon to discipline a student must come together to consistently enforce the rules. When a rule is not enforced, the students then push even further and the discipline issues escalate. To have that consistency, teachers need to know 3 things. Number 1, what exactly is the rule? 1 earbud, no earbuds, hoodies, no hoodies, etc. Number two, every teacher needs to know the administration will support him or her when enforcing the rules, instead of being criticized for writing too many referrals, or worse, feel their job may be in jeopardy. Number three, every teacher must know they will be supported by the administration when the parent gets angry at the teacher for enforcing the rule. That has happened to me and other teachers in that the parent gets mad because, for example, the teacher insists on enforcing the dress code. So they tell the school to move their child into another classroom because the first teacher is picking on their child. And it happens. Now every student knows how to get out of a teacher's class. And this has happened to me at least once every year. There's no mystery why a teacher stops enforcing the rules. Every parent wants their child to behave, not get into trouble, and they certainly want their child to be safe. A poorly run discipline program does not make anyone at a school feel safe because it is not safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Order.
Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Member Davis, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay. The motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation regarding student discipline hearings?
Yes, I do, and it's that the School Board of Seminole County approve the student disciplinary recommendations from February 27, 2023, March 6, 2023, and March 20, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Superintendent, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. I have a number of items that are included in the book, and they're read-only items. And as Ms. Bonts and Mr. Rice come forward, I also want to just say you all covered a number of the events that we have had the pleasure of attending over the last couple of weeks. Wanted to mention that on Saturday, the internship and employment for our student fair, the expo, that's headed by Dr. Gar Harold and his team, was held at Lake Brantley. Had an opportunity to hit that before hitting the road, and it was a really awesome expo. Talked with so many students that were really excited about the internship possibilities, about learning how to write a resume, which was available to them right there at the expo. And also, this year we had a number of breakout sessions that focused on the 3 E's, the employment, the enrollment, and the enlistment. Sat through one of those sessions, and again, very enthusiastic students taking in that information and looking forward to the opportunities before them. So wanted to say thank you to Dr. Gar Harold and his team for a wonderful expo. And now I'll ask Ms. Bonts to give an update on where we're at after the approval of the SEA contract tonight.
That you just approved. So good evening, Chairman Krause, board members, and Superintendent Beeman. I want to take a moment to thank the board and the superintendent for their support throughout the 22-23 negotiation process. As we all know, it's been a very long year. And so we appreciate that the board was committed to giving a substantial raise to our teachers, as this was the highest percentage raise since the 2007-2008 school year. We went through the impasse process, and the special magistrate agreed with the district's final proposal that was offered to SEA in early November, and confirmed that the raise that the district offered was fair and comparable to surrounding counties and like-sized districts. SEA accepted the magistrate's recommendation, and they ratified the contract last week with a vote of 1,068 in favor to 32 in opposition. Now that the SEA has ratified and the board has approved, we can move forward with paying our teachers and instructional staff their bonuses, raises, and back pay. Our teachers and instructional staff can see their bonuses in their April 28th paychecks, and their back pay and raises will be seen in their May 26th paycheck. Again, on behalf of my bargaining team, or the bargaining team, and myself, I want to thank the board and the superintendent for supporting all employees from Seminole County Public Schools. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Rice, if you would, please. Member Sanchez wanted to give you an update as it relates to both the event at Lake Brantley High School and then also the steps afterwards.
Well, good evening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to kind of share a little bit about what happened the night of the prom at Lake Brantley High School. We shared this with Cabinet last week, but just want to give you an update that when the event happened, there was a few things that took place. First of all, I just want to share that their tickets went on sale back in January, and that ticket sale was on the My School Bucks platform. When they made the sales, students had a few weeks to do at a certain cost, and then it elevated to the next level cost. About 500 students purchased their tickets, and the night of the event, when they showed up, there was 7 students in total that did not have a receipt, did not have their ticket, and tried to get in. In doing so, the school said, well, we don't have a ticket for you, we don't have you on the list here, so we're not going to allow you to come into the event. In doing the research, and going back, actually, let me take one more step further. So as those 7 students were standing there, they also had a cutoff time for 8 o'clock in which any students that were coming into the event would not be allowed to come into the event past that hour. It's part of SeaWorld security. It's a part of the process for students coming in and being able to enjoy the full event and cutting that time off. Because of the situation that was taking place, they extended that to about 8:20, 8:22. There was another 10 or so students that came after that became a part of the group of 7 students. So it looked like there was a lot of students involved, but there's other groups that were involved. In addition, I think some of the students that were in the prom itself that had friends on the outside decided to come out and hang with their fellow students on the outside as well. So those students were not let in that night, and we had a lot of conversations back and forth, Catherine Cernkovich and myself with the administration there trying to kind of figure out what was going on. And in doing the research, when we came back to school, and they also had some conversations with Lorena Bruneau from our purchasing department to dig in real quick into the system to see, were those payments made? Was there something that took place that maybe they missed it and didn't have it on their sheets? Also, the bookkeeper was on a later shift at Lake Brantley, and she showed up a little bit, I want to say a little bit after the 8 o'clock hour, and did some research as well. What they found is out of the 7 students that were not let in for this, not having their tickets, that 5 of the 7 had not interacted necessarily with the prom ticket link within the My School Bucks platform. Now, whether that was an error on their part, whether, as you mentioned, there was something inside the system that didn't let them click on that, essentially they didn't make that purchase, and there was no receipt to show that transaction, both on the parents' side as well as our side. We had 2 additional students in addition to those first 5. One of the other students did make the purchase, had a debt still on the debt list, and so was not allowed to make that purchase. There was an email sent on Monday, a second email sent on Tuesday to the family, and then on Wednesday they sent an email to say, well, we haven't heard from you, so we're going to go ahead and pull your ticket. And then the last student was a student who they could see interacted in My School Bucks with the link, but it showed an error code on there. And so tried to work with the school to see if they had any idea as to what that error code was, but there was, again, no purchase made, no money taken from the account, and no record of any purchase as well. So being that they had a lot of students that day say, hey, I forgot to purchase my tickets, and students then showing up that night, they had already told them we didn't have time to check for our security measures, the ones that came in the day, and then the ones that showed up at night. They had to kind of be consistent with their policies and making sure they were holding firm to what they did. So it was definitely an evening that was not something that our students, as you mentioned, would desire. It is the prom, it is a special evening, and The school has reviewed a couple of their practices to see are there things that they could do better in the future to identify this earlier and make sure that if there is a situation that someone didn't get their purchase through, that they could check that ahead of time. So they're going to look at that going into next year, and that's kind of where we stand.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I would have, think maybe a text going out to all of us, since many of us were receiving messages and not knowing what was going on, would have been nice to know. I had to reach out to numerous people to get information and then not get anything until Monday until I asked. You know, it doesn't feel good to find out information after the fact or during it. And clearly there's a glitch in the system because I witnessed it myself. And if a parent is most kids don't have debit cards, some do, some don't. To hold that child responsible for maybe an error that maybe the parent didn't see, because I had watched this transaction with a parent on another incident. And the transaction didn't go through, but it didn't say that. Doesn't give you a confirmation at anything at the end. And so I think that we need to look at my school bucks and make sure that this glitch doesn't happen again, and then maybe, learn from this. These poor children have been through so much. I don't even say it. COVID has destroyed them already. And for a handful of students, it's not acceptable. I'm sorry, I wear my heart on my shoulder, my sleeve.
I have a quick comment, and I was wondering if we can implement a way to actually issue a printable or paper ticket to these students, because not only will it avoid all of the issues that occurred over the weekend, but it's also sort of a memorabilia of the event as well. And I think that would solve the problem, as well as give the students something that they can save.
Absolutely. That is one of the measures that the school is looking into doing for next year, to make sure that they close that loop so that the purchase happens, they receive their tickets to know that, hey, I've been accepted. And we have a lot of processes along that loop as well, that, as we mentioned, the debt list and making sure that students have rectified that, and a couple other measures as well. So closing that loop is one area that I know the school is going to look at.
And if there is a debt issue, usually we deal with that when we give them caps and gowns, but there's always a way around it. I mean, I donated money over to the school for the students for prom clothes and things like that, and for tickets. So if there is ever an issue, I know each and every one of us would be more than happy to help any child that needed to have an outstanding debt, or a book that was misplaced or whatever. We've all dealt with that, where a library book is missing, and then all of a sudden you're like, you can't graduate until that library book is found. We're a public school, for crying out loud. I mean, we have to have empathy and compassion. We have to figure out a debt in this time, and then not being informed or a flagged email to a parent or even text system to go out to that family member to say, hey, look, I know we're learning from this, but making up or going to somebody else's prom is not the solution. If it was your child in that situation, for the people that sent that email out, you would not want your child to have to go through a different school's prom and think that that's a solution.
I heard
Order, please. Order.
That maybe we could go. I heard her say it on the news interview.
I never say that yet, because
maybe we could go to another school.
She wanted to go somewhere, but it wasn't a solution.
Mike, I just want to share feedback on My School Bucks. Maybe you can have a conversation with them. It's not the greatest website. We use it for ticket purchases. I've had to purchase 8th grade dance tickets and field trip stuff. You don't get a confirmation email when that purchase is made. And I don't know if that's a programming issue on our side or on My School Bucks, but I think that is an extra layer of support that we could give our staff to make sure that our families are getting that, or however it happens. But as someone who uses the system, you don't get an email, and they do say your receipt will show up like this on your on your credit card invoice, your debit, or your bank statement, but,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes that doesn't come in until it's too late, so that's just input.
We'll bring it back as feedback to see if we can improve that product. Thank you.
And Mr. Wright, Rice, building on what Chair Kraus had mentioned, that one of the students that evening had mentioned, perhaps I can go to another prom. Are there any plans under works for? Obviously, it won't make up for that evening, but at least if we can, you know, salvage and create a different memory for these students. Is that being worked on?
Yeah. Mr. Blazewitz, the principal over at Lake Brantley High School, met with all the families that wanted to come in, and if he didn't meet with the family, he met with the students individually just to kind of talk them through the situation and through the options and move forward. We had 2 of our principals reach out, and they were in collaboration with Mr. Blazewitz that have offered for these students to be able to go to the prom at their school. And so I know a few of them are considering that. I haven't heard this week if they've taken up on that offer, but I know they were very interested in it.
Well, and I will honestly say, Principal Blazewicz is one of the finest men I've ever met, and has class and compassion and empathy. But the fact of us not knowing about it and finding out from the community of it blowing up on social media and then hitting the news was just so heartbreaking. And I hope we learn from this, because I know that he's reached out to the students, and he has a great rapport with his parents, and he's always one that reaches out to them, just like a lot of our principals who really take a great interest in getting involved with their parents. So it's not against him or any of that by any means. It's just that we've got to fix this and pray that this never happens again. And the fact that if you have a debt, I mean, oh my gosh, in today's day, especially when we're talking that we have 48% of students on free and reduced lunch, I mean, common sense here.
Well, and I want to say that all of our principals are, like you said, they will work with the students. And I know that that's what they were trying to do, is to try to figure that out. And just, we had a communication breakdown on that piece and didn't bring those pieces together. So, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
Thank you.
And that concludes.
And
your
that
report.
concludes my update.
Okay. Okay, it's now time for board committee reports. Vice Chair.
Sorry,
Drink
okay,
your
I
water
promise
and
I
namaste.
did, I promise I'm going to be very fast. So, we have our coalition meeting Monday. I chair the Central Florida School Board Coalition with 14 districts underneath me, and I went with the Florida School Board Association representing them. We will have our legislative update from our legislative advocate, who's in charge of that. And then we are going to do like a breakout session with the 14 districts in Central Florida, discussing discipline and truancy and different concerns that each district has. Because like we said, this is not just a issue here, it's an issue everywhere with discipline. And then I had my last value adjustment board. I'll be giving that over to Chair Kraus. I was vice chair for that for 2 years, and I enjoyed working with the value adjustment board. So that meeting was last week. The zoo board, we have this weekend, Saturday night, if you haven't had a chance to buy your tickets. It's Brews Around the Zoo. It's Saturday. There's a VIP time that you can get into the zoo an hour earlier. And I believe that's $60, or if you just want to do the regular time, I believe it's $50 per person. And Allie's Hope Golf Tournament was fabulous. We raised about $55,000. So thank you so much for you guys being there for me, being there representing. I know that we did something that I want you all to take back and think about. They had us bow our heads for 20 seconds. And then Joe Gallagher, who lost his daughter, she lost her life and died by suicide, said every 20 seconds we have a child between the ages of 12 and 18 who tries to kill themselves. And the ones that we least expect it sometimes are the ones that are truly hiding behind a shell or smiling and you don't know what's going on. So please take time, if you're listening or if you're playing on social media or whatever, get off of social media. Have some family time, be with your kids, spend quality time with them and get to know them. On that note, I hope everybody has a wonderful Passover and happy Easter. And may you all, God bless you all.
Thank you. Member Penick.
I had my audit committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. We discussed the warehouse recommendations as a result of the internal audit committee. And it's just the frameworks for the new software conversion that the warehouse is moving over to. So it's not a true audit as in they had any findings. So really nothing to share. We also discussed self-insurance claims audit, which we are moving forward with through the audit committee. And in about a month, they will be sitting down with us to go over the self-insurance fund claim audit. So I don't have any results or information to share with you at this point, but as soon as I do, I will send those out. And that's my report.
Thank you. Member Davis, did you have any committee reports?
I do, thank you. The Children's Cabinet of Seminole County, I know that our school board attorney, Carlene, was able to attend the last meeting. The National Child Abuse Prevention Family-Friendly Resource Fair is coming up on April 15th. That's 2 weeks from now, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're going to have activities for the kids. They're going to have handouts. They're going to have little trinkets for the kids. It's going to be held at the Altamont Mall. And there are many agencies that are participating. There are still 5 tables left. So if any of you all know any different organizations that may want to participate, as of now, I believe there's 35 organizations that are participating, including some counseling offices, Positive Behavioral Solutions, Healthy Start Coalition of Seminole County, of course, the Department of Children and Families, Boys Town, what's the other one that I liked? One More Child, Team Dad, Athlete University. They are all going to be there, as well as many others. If you know anyone that wants to participate, please give them that information. April 15th at the Altamont Mall between 11 and 2 p.m. And also in reference to the 5 tables that are still left. If you need to contact someone, you can contact Amy Paddock. Her email address is amber.padrick@gal.fl.gov. We can get that information for you as well. So come on out to that, not this weekend, but next weekend. Also, secondly, the SHAC committee, which is the School Health Advisory Committee, their next meeting is April 21st from 2 to 3:30 p.m. They are going to provide some talks with us regarding initiatives for healthy weight, affordable services for vision and dental, as well as some information about viruses and virus prevention. So that I look forward to, more resources for our students and our families here in Seminole County. I thank you all for coming to the meeting. I know we have some more talks right now, but I just want to thank you all for coming out.
Thank you. Member Garrick.
Just before spring break, I had the opportunity to meet with some of the Sanford community leaders at the Velma Williams Center. Not only is it community members or Sanford leaders, but we also have at that regular meeting folks from education as well as from throughout the community. I wanted to share a couple of opportunities for young people. There is a youth leadership opportunity through the city of Sanford, and if anyone's interested, I'm happy to get you that information, as well as summer internship opportunities, and I've got more details about that from the Front Porch Project. All those details are sitting on a note on my kitchen counter, and not here, but I'm happy to get them to you should you like. I also wanted to remind everyone about our Great Start program, which encourages early learning, particularly early literacy from birth on. At the Velma Williams Center that evening, we had our leaders from the Great Start program there, and I'm excited to say that they've opened up their program for me to come and sit in sometime this month, so I'll have an update next time. But we've got resources for our earliest leaders. It's an imperative that we set the strong foundation for learning and literacy. So if you know anyone who needs those services, please, the information is on the website, and I'm sure any of us are happy to connect you as well. And then this Thursday is a meeting with the Business Advisory Board. Some of our leaders here are here. Superintendent Beeman has tasked this board with several opportunities to help the schools. One is best practices for hiring, as well as some other opportunities that they can help us with. And it's my understanding that there may be 1 or 2 openings on that committee. So if you are interested, if you are a community business owner or somebody involved in business, we would certainly love to harness your energies on that committee.
Thank you very much. So we had mayors and managers, and just the updates from each of them. Most of it seemed to focus on Winter Springs. No movement yet on the ILA. I think that's still a part of the discussion. They did initiate initial conversations about the penny sales tax renewal, but again, no movement on any of that at this point. I also met with former board member Tina Calderon and 2 of her contacts that serve the Orlando Science Center expressed an interest to her long ago. Her seat expires in June, and I expressed interest in serving as an ex officio member on that board. So I did meet initially with them, and we'll keep you updated on the progress. I think that connection is really important to keep. It's a wonderful, they're going through renovation projects right now, and it just is so meaningful. It was one of the first centers. I avoided, sorry to say it, but I avoided Disney and Universal as long as we could when my kids were little, and we went to the Science Center. We got family memberships. So, and with that, I will we'll move along to, it's time for public comments, non-agenda items at this point. And I have Melinda Wimbush, Deborah Krause, and Deborah Donahue are my first 3 speakers. Sure. Oh, Abby has one more event.
To share that on Thursday night at the health department, we have a public health event from 5 until 7 p.m. It's right after the Healthy Seminole collaborative meeting, so there'll be lots of resources, a lot of fun activities. Donna Walsh has some games and bouncy houses and everything else. So that's at the health department at this Thursday evening from 5 until 7. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Beeman. My name is Melinda Wimbush, and I'm a proud SCPS teacher at Goldsboro Elementary Magnet School here in Sanford. I've lived in Seminole County all my life, excepting the 4 years I was at UCF and lived in Orange County, and 3 years that I lived in Alachua County attending University of Florida Law School. I left a commercial litigation practice to pursue education, specifically elementary education, 7 years ago. I did that because I really felt compelled to work with children, and as an attorney, you don't do that. Not very often, at least, right? And I always loved education. I could never get enough of school, and so that's probably why I went to law school. But I especially love teaching my first graders. My firsties are amazing, and I think I learn more from them some days than they learn from me. I plan to speak at this meeting to discuss the financial struggle many Seminole County teachers are dealing with in effort to preempt the new bargaining session. But today I changed my mind when I was in a meeting and learned the details of cataloging all school books to comply with state law. As I'm sure board members know, every school will have to have on their website a list of every book on their campus, listed not only by media center, reading room, but also teachers' personal libraries in their classroom. And we had initially been told that we had until July 1st to comply with this law, and now we have learned that we have 18 school days to comply. 18 school days. So each teacher will use an app called Libib, and so yay for an app, to scan every book in their personal classroom library. To make this happen and protect us from the possibility of being charged with a felony, we must scan our classroom libraries. As everyone here knows, teachers have numerous responsibilities each day that last well beyond our 7-hour contracted day. With the deadline looming, I have 126 hours of paid time left, and of that, I have 8.25 hours available that I could scan books. 8.25 hours. I have hundreds of books in my library. So I and many of my colleagues, we will be removing the books because we can't scan them. And I'm lucky my principal said she will cancel PLCs, so hooray my principal. Other principals have said that they would be willing to open the school on weekends so that teachers can come in unpaid to comply with this law. And the fact that we now only have 18 days and many teachers are going to be expected to do that unpaid is, I think, absolutely insane. So I know I've gone over my time, but I just really felt compelled that I wanted not only the board and the superintendent to know all the details of this, but I felt that it was important for the public to hear it as well, because we're doing our best. We're overworked. You guys hear us say it all the time. We are so appreciative of all the people, the parents, all the people who support us, but this is ridiculous. So thank you.
Thank you.
Order, please.
Superintendent, can you clarify on that one? Superintendent, can you clarify on that one where that directive came from?
Right, and Dr. Weissung, if you would please come and give this is the same information that we have talked about, and as it relates to complying with the certification.
I understand I want to understand the change in the timeline though, because that seems like a new timeline. If it was July, and why is it now 18 days?
So to be clear, we have a certification due by July 1 to the Florida Department of Education. It's a superintendent certification. The certification doesn't say that everything has been cataloged. We've got to review and approve. So step 1 is getting things cataloged. Step 2 is going through and ensuring that everything in those collections complies with state law. So you have to work backward from that timeline. So our goal with elementary is to wrap up the scanning process by the end of April, so that, and board members, we currently have 2 district staff with the library media certification credentials to do this, so that those 2 people have enough time to complete the review and approval process so that the superintendent can lawfully sign the required certification.
Did we receive an email on this, or did I miss something? I'm sorry.
Well,
was somebody, I don't know if I received something that I missed about this.
It's an operational matter, so we wouldn't have.
As far as
so our teachers knew about this.
As far as the LibBib and that process.
That they're going through, that they have to go through this process.
Well, we covered it during, I just want to be clear, I'm understanding. We covered it during our workshop as it relates to kind of the process of moving forward. Then the schools have had a training, once you all approved for the LibBib, the schools have had training to now push out to provide that to the teachers, that capability. So that's
I understand that part, but then I know I asked, not too long ago about a teacher not allowed to have any books in their classroom. And they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, they were told they weren't allowed to have any books in their classroom because of the cataloging and everything else. Now this is making sense because all this is starting to, basically, were ahead of the game on that. And not having and watching their materials in their room, but now the libraries, which are media centers, which I already knew one teacher principal had started this a while back, but I'm just confused that I don't recall knowing that we only have 18 days and you know the process being so short.
And Member Sanchez, I want to be clear. There's been no directive to remove any books. There has not. The process as it relates to how we were going to comply was part of that workshop when we talked about LIBIP and how we were going to get to that point.
We're not removing any books right now.
No, there's been no directive, unless, of course, when you review, then it's determined. But no, there was no blanket remove books from classrooms. This was the process that we discussed to put in place so that we could make sure that A, we met the requirements of the law, and B, that we facilitated that process prior to the timeline that we had to sign off. So that was part of the workshop discussions. This is the kind of the implementation of what we all discussed and the contracts that was approved as it relates to the how.
Dr. Weissong, is it possible for us to do like an all-call for volunteers to help scan? Because books are vital in our classrooms. I hate to hear that you want to take them out. And can we have, there's got to be an option for our staff to be tasked with this solely to the point where they want to remove their books.
Dr. Scanlon conducted a training with the elementary principals and the individuals that they designated, and multiple implementation strategies were discussed as part of that training. Each principal has to think about the best method for implementation based on the staffing that's available at their school and the timeline. And as the speaker alluded, different principals are employing different strategies based on what they feel is best for their campus. Certainly the timelines are tight. None of this is easy. We've procured an app that again has rolled out and works very quickly, and we've put a structure in place so that this only has to be done once. But there are a lot of steps involved, and yes, it's it is a challenge to get it all done.
Member Garrett.
Thank you. I remember early on we talked about the difficulty about bringing in volunteers because you and the superintendent and ultimately, not you, Carlene, ultimately the school board needs to sign off that all of these books have gone through the vetting process. So the first step is cataloging, but I don't recall there being discussion about the cataloging. It seems like that could be something that could be done by volunteers. I mean, is that incorrect?
The discussion that we had internally as a staff is that because there is a legal certification involved, and because we have to have everything cataloged, you do want staff doing that process. However, there are ways to involve volunteers in order to prepare each library for rapid scanning and then put things back. So I think there are ways to utilize volunteers in the process, but we want to be sure that the key pieces are completed by employees so that when we're signing that certification, we're confident that we're fully in compliance.
Okay. So, Superintendent?
Certainly, we will reach out to our principals to determine whether the methods that they have they're using to employ, if they could use some support, and then we will work from there. Absolutely.
Thank you, Superintendent, and tong you, Dr. Weissong, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. We certainly want to make sure that we have as many books in our classes as possible. We definitely want more, not fewer.
Thank you. Thank you for being patient, Deborah Krause.
Oh, no worries. All right, Deborah Krause, Seminole County, Altamont Springs. And I'm actually here, and I sympathize with the book thing. That kind of threw me off because that is 18 days is impossible. I am actually only here because Stephanie, who you guys are familiar with, cares about all future dual enrollment students and wants common sense to prevail. So, and I know all 5 of you, Kelly, hi over there, I know all of you guys know how to find an average. I mean, that's common sense. It's an arithmetic mean. So we do averages all the time. We do average miles per hour, we average miles per gallon, we do average age of this room. We could figure that out. And I think you all know what the word discriminate means. It's very common sense as well. You can't discriminate, meaning you treat one group or one person different than you treat everybody else. So with dual enrollment credits, everyone's making this big thing that we're suggesting to change the progression plan. We want to change semester grading, and that is not what we're saying. Semester grading works across the board. Every single student who takes algebra, whether they take it in 2 semesters, whether they take it virtually, whether they take it in the summer, they get 1 credit towards graduation. That is undisputed. So biology, chemistry, algebra, statistics, calculus, everybody gets a credit. But dual enrollment students, when they take that, they get half a credit towards their GPA. They don't get a full credit. Every other student, regardless if you take basic algebra or if you take AP algebra, you get a full credit. So why is only thing that's being differentiated is GPA? We are literally discriminating against dual enrollment students because it's a class of people who are being treated differently for one thing only, and that's GPA. Just use common sense, what credits earned over the points. It's that simple. That's all we're asking. So it's a pretty common fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Donahue, followed by Linda Coffin, followed by Fiona Shannon.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Deborah Donahue, and I'm here tonight to say thank you for promoting the safe storage of weapons. Thank you to all the administrators and staff and teachers in this district who try their best every single day to keep our kids safe. You try so hard to protect our kids in this community, and I appreciate all you do. In light of last week's tragedy in Nashville, I just wanted to share a little perspective as an educator. During COVID, I accepted a job at a virtual school. Majority of my kids were there because of COVID. Now, a couple years later, the majority of my kids are there because they're worried about gun violence in schools. Last week, we were doing a social studies activity. We had to come up with a community project. We had a student, a 4th grader, mention gun violence across the USA. We have to do something in this world because our kids don't feel safe. We are robbing them of their childhood. We need common sense gun laws. We don't need guardians in our school. We have a gun problem, and our kids are ultimately paying that price. Our teachers and administrators have become the last line of defense far too often. As a teacher, I've had to learn how to jam a chair into my door in the case that we had an intruder come in. You might know Ms. Sanchez. I've had, at a previous school, a situation where we were in a real lockdown. I had to keep 25 4th graders quiet for several hours. I also had to figure out, could I hide them all in the bathroom? That's what our kids are facing. That's what our teachers are facing. And laws like permitless carry are simply going to exponentially increase the danger to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Order, please.
Hi, my name is Linda Coffin, and I'm obviously from Moms Demand Action. Yesterday,
Governor DeSantis signed permitless carry into law. What does that mean for us, and what does that mean for our children? Permitless carry means now that someone can purchase a gun and have absolutely no training. Now, understand the training was not much to begin with, but I don't know why they didn't improve it instead of eliminating it. It also means that a gun can be purchased in a non-licensed gun dealer and not have a background check. What does that mean? Someone without a background check, we know without a background check, can now purchase a gun. This is very frightening to us as adults, but as the lady before us was saying, it's extremely frightening to our children. The children that are already in high gun violence or violence neighborhoods, it's only going to increase because we know by statistics that the number of guns stolen goes up and that the violent crimes go up at least 15%, and some data shows much more. We want to thank you for the gun safety storage information that you're giving out to the parents, because now more than ever it's extremely important so that our children do not have access to the guns. And Member Sanchez, I really felt your emotions when you talked about those who are wanting to take their own lives, when we talked about the trauma that our children are going through, which leads me to the next. There is a group out there that wants to eliminate social emotional learning. Right now, our children need social emotional learning for the trauma that they're dealing with everyday lives. And also, as Member Garrett was saying, we need to learn how to respect one another and teach our children how to respect one another. So that I hope if this decision comes before you, you will keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Order, please.
Fiona Shannon, followed by Jessica Tillman, followed by Nina Sandberg.
Good evening, School Board and Superintendent. My name is Fiona Shannon, and I have 2 grown children who graduated from Seminole County Schools. I have been a volunteer at the East Altamont Boys and Girls Club for the past 7 years. I'm speaking to you as an advocate for my kids, because that's what I consider them. I want to thank you for the programs you've put in place, particularly your partnership with Sheriff Lima. I also want to thank you for realizing the importance of educating parents on the issue of gun storage. Guns are the #1 killer of children and teens in this country. Let me repeat that. Guns are the #1 killer of children and teens in this country. I am very concerned with the passage of permitless carry in our state and other legislation that will likely be passed this session. Our children are the ones who are being affected by these lax gun laws. Last week at the Boys and Girls Club, we were out on the playground, and there was all these sirens going by, and I'm like, are those police sirens or are those fire engines? What is that? And the kids are like, oh, there's all kinds of shootings right across the street in that neighborhood. These are 1st through 3rd graders. Totally nonchalant, just part of everyday life, people getting shot. So this is the stuff that really bothers me, and I could tell you stories of kids directly impacted by gun violence in our neighborhoods. And I could tell you about the teenagers I witnessed in Tallahassee in tears, telling the legislators they are afraid to go to school because they're afraid of being shot. I am concerned about students who are dealing with trauma due to gun violence in the schools and in their communities. If you've ever read this book, Children Under Fire, An American Crisis, it explains to you how gun violence doesn't necessarily affect the person actually shot as much as it can the other children or other people. So this is something I ask you to do everything in your power to keep our kids safe and to treat the trauma. And I ask that, I hear these images, these talk about discipline, and to me, they're children, and we can heal children. Let's not throw away the key and throw them out of schools and throw them in jail, because that just makes them into criminals. We can heal children, and please, there are so many kids in our schools dealing with trauma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Order, please.
Good evening, I'm Jessica Tillman. So I forgot to mention something earlier. I was reached out to by a parent or a grandparent from Lawton Childs Elementary School, or middle school, excuse me. Their grandson was in a fight. It was his first offense. The other student was also his first offense, and both of them were on a 504. The parents reached out to me because they were getting nowhere with the school district or the principal. They were denying them information. They weren't giving them the full referrals. They ended up hiring an attorney, and they asked me to reach out to the board to see if I could get some help in the matter. So I did. And the response by the superintendent was that you don't provide information to community members on situations. When I didn't ask for any information about the situation, I asked for the district to look into it and see if the punishment really did fit the crime. Both students are on a 504, and both students were suspended for 10 days and also sent to alternative school. So again, can you please look into this situation? The young man has his 504 meeting tomorrow. So it would really be helpful if we could look into this situation just to make sure the punishment is fitting the crime. Because we don't want too lenient, and we don't want it too over the top either. We need a happy medium where children are being disciplined, teachers feel safe, students feel safe. So I apologize for forgetting that. But I also want to say that the prom situation is really disheartening. I'd like to see the district move to cash again. You can't even go to a football game anymore without having to use an app to buy a ticket. Like, I use cash most of the time. I don't use my debit card very often at all. So please look into that as an option as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nina Sandberg, followed by Raquel Molina.
I'm Nina Sandberg. Last summer, the board received 2 petitions asking them to sign SCPS up for the Guardians program. The board ignored both of these petitions. Those petitions also asked the board not to restrict public comment. The board ignored those petitions. Ms. Beeman should have authorized the emergency purchase of food and drink for the extra kids last Saturday night. There is no excuse. Parents who were behind the gate with their children should have been given the opportunity to pay the banquet manager directly for the kids themselves. Prom tickets need to be sold easily and with a cash option, and they need to be sold with no strings attached. Juniors need to be allowed to participate in the prom at every single solitary SCPS high school. I must note that a very large number of juniors and seniors are excluded from both prom and yearbook every year because their parents cannot afford these things. They can't afford the costs. Children take pictures of their friends' yearbooks. They take pictures of the pages in the yearbooks because they can't afford to pay for the yearbooks. They are entirely too expensive. As a former head waitress and assistant banquet director, I do not accept any of Mr. Rice's excuses for not taking care of those kids last Saturday night because I know exactly how easy it is. I have worked over 100 weddings. It is really, really easy. At least 3 board members would have driven to SeaWorld and would have taken care of that situation themselves if they had been called. I know them personally. I know these board members. They would have done it. You have to know that you have known about the dual enrollment program now for 2 months. You need to fix it. You know it's not fair. You just need to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings.
Hello, Raquel.
Greetings all. My name is Raquel Molina. My daughter Emily and I are here to support all those 14 Lake Brantley High School kids that were denied entrance to their prom due to payment processing glitch. Since Seminole County Public School leadership admin couldn't break their prom's protocol, those young, beautiful kids were turned away from attending their prom. Leadership/admin chose not to break the rule instead of using common sense. Most protocols are meant to be kept, but the best leaders know when to break their rules or to use common sense. Unfortunately, common sense wasn't used, which caused all the Lake Brantley prom nightmare. What a shame. And it's unacceptable. Why is admin/leadership so quick to blame the students and parents instead of taking responsibility? Seminole County Public School failed those kids by denying entrance to their prom and by not showing any type of empathy, none at all. If Seminole County Public School admin is unable to break the district's protocols or law, why did Seminole County Public School deny related services to my special needs daughter? And why did Seminole County Public School admin retaliated against me for advocating for my special needs daughter? Why? I'm still waiting for an answer. You all broke the law by not providing faith and by retaliating against me for advocating for my daughter. Unfortunately and sadly, our 45th U.S. president has been indicted today. But the one who should be indicted and put behind bars are still working in Seminole County Public School.
Yeah.
That is sad.
Order, please.
So that concludes our public comment. And if I could just take a quick minute and say congratulations to Tyler and Josh. And then this meeting will stand adjourned. Thank you all.